Hello, world. As Samhain approaches, I find it important to read you all a story because we kind of were talking about the story in a video I just made about the God who dies yet is never dead. Uh, we talked about a very important story, and I realized upon watching the video that I talked about the story of the legend of the descent of Inanna, and only portions of this mythos as it stands now are borrowed from the myth of Inanna. They tend to they change, they evolve over years, and the standard of this story has changed a bit. As we mentioned, and a couple of my savvy viewers picked up that sometimes the goddess is called Dia, and death, I believe, is called Dis. There's also the same story with Diana as the main goddess, and this one with a goddess who is not named, but classic tale for this time of year. So I'm going to read you a story. In this, I'll give credit to sacredwicca.viviti.com, who I'm borrowing this from, but it is not really their text, it is everybody's text. Our Lady, who would solve all mysteries, even the mystery of death. And so she journeyed to the underworld in her boat upon the sacred river of descent. Then it came to pass that she entered before the first of 7 gates to the underworld. And the guardian challenged her, demanding one of her garments for passage, for nothing may be received except that something is given in return. And at each of these gates the goddess was required to pay the price of passage. For the guardian spoke to her, "Strip off your garments and set aside your jewels, for nothing may you bring with you into this realm." So she surrendered her jewels and her clothing to the guardians and was bound, as all living must be, who seek to enter the realm of death and the mighty ones. At the first gate she gave over her scepter, at the second her crown, at the third her necklace, at the fourth her ring, at the fifth her girdle, at the sixth her sandals, and at the seventh her gown. She stood naked and was presented before Death, and such was her beauty that Death knelt as she entered. He laid his crown and his sword at her feet, saying, "Blessed be thy feet that have brought you down this path." Then he arose and said, "Abide with me, but let me place my cold hand upon your heart." She replied, "I love thee not. Why do you cause all things that I love and take delight in to fade and die?" "My lady," replied Death, "it is age and fate against which you speak. I am helpless, for age causes all things to wither. But when men die at the end of time, I give them rest and peace and strength. For a time they dwell with the moon and the spirits of the moon. Then they may return to this realm of the living. But you are so lovely, I ask you to return not, but abide with me here." But she answered, "No, for I do not love you." Then said Death, "If you refuse to embrace me, then you must kneel to Death's scourge." The goddess answered him, "If this is to be, then it is fate, and better so." So she knelt in submission before the hand of Death, and he scourged her with so tender a hand that she cried out, "I know your pain, and the pain of love." I never got that part. Death raised her to her feet and said, "Blessed are you, my queen and my lady," and gave her the 5 kisses of initiation, saying, "Only thus may you attain to joy and knowledge." And I'm reading the version where they left out the 5 kisses. There are versions with the entire 5 kisses in it. And he taught her all of his mysteries and gave her the necklace, which is the circle of rebirth. And she taught him the mysteries of the sacred cup, which is the cauldron of rebirth. They loved and were joined in union with each other, and for a time the goddess lived in the realm of death. The story goes on, and I'm checking the time. All right, I'm doing really good. That was 4 minutes. All right, let's see. For there are three mysteries in the life of man, which are sex, birth, and death, and love controls them all. For to fulfill love, you must return again at the same time and place as those who you loved before. And you must meet, recognize, remember, and love them again. But to be reborn, you must die, and must be made ready for a new body. And to die, you must be born, and without love, you may not be born amongst your own. But our goddess is inclined to favor love and joy and happiness. She guards and cherishes her hidden children in this life and the next. In death, she reveals the way to her communion, and in life, she teaches them the magic and mystery of the circle, which is set between the worlds of men and of the gods. You see why it's so important to read the classics? And there are so many lessons, and they're very much about initiation. But I found that perhaps my point has not been made yet. I want to make it clear before Samhain. God is not dead. God is reigning in the realm of death. And if you, O witches, do not learn the lesson to embrace death, you will be forced to kneel to death's scourge. And he may not scourge thee with such a tender hand as to make you say, I know the pangs and the pleasures of love. Whatever the heck that means. There's many versions of this legend out there, and it's extremely important. You definitely should read the legend of the seven gates of Inanna, because you can definitely see the portions of the tale come from there. And goddesses do that. They transform their stories onto many other faces and change them with time. They evolve. They're supposed to evolve. So the bards always said was that stories were supposed to evolve, and that's why they didn't want to write them down, so it would stop them from evolving. Years ago, a fairy elder got really upset when she saw that we were going to do this in a ritual, which is pretty common amongst my people, and she got really upset and told me that we were about to do a third-degree fairy secret. This ritual, this one that you just read, that I just found on the internet, and I said to her, I said, you do know Gardner published it, right? You do know Leland published it. It's been around, and you do know it's on the internet, right? It's a problem with a lot of people's third-degree secrets. They're only secrets because nobody looked in the right place. Best secrets are hidden in plain sight, I guess. Happy Samhain, I guess. This is definitely one you should look up. Look up all the versions. If you look up the version with the actual fivefold kiss in it, it's great stuff that people won't tell you before initiation. But that's up to you to find yourself. I can only point you in a direction and then kick the ladder out from under you. That's my job. I'm Birch. Blessed be.